2021 is definitely planning to be a pretty weird year in terms of game releases. A lot of 2020 games have been delayed to this year, but most of them do not have a proper release date yet. Some studios have simply gone silent to work as efficiently as possible to meet the 2021 deadline, and some are unfortunately delaying their games into 2022. This is of course happening because of the virus plan, which is still happening worldwide and affecting every gaming studios from the smallest to the biggest one. Of course, this was something new and disorienting for everyone, but there's some good news to get out of this. Indie games are still striving. A lot of these indie developers were already working from home in the beginning, or some were simply a smaller studio as opposed to big building companies like Ubisoft. The upcoming open world RPG Biomutant is one of them. This game has to be one, if not my most anticipated game of the year. One that has a release date set in stone too. There seem to be so many things to get excited for coming from Biomutant, so many diverse gameplay elements that it would be a sin not to try it out. There's a super massive and unique world to explore with different tribes that you can join at your liking, a huge RPG system, character customization from head to toe, there's kung fu, guns, swords, a decision-making system that influences the world and story, and more than 100 bosses to fight. I swear this game seems to have it all for open world fans. It's actually been said to be a combination of the many great games that released over the years, and Biomutant is a perfect example of how you can integrate many games into one. Some details that were revealed says that both THQ, the game's publisher, and Experiment 101 never expected this game to blow up as it did and be almost 2021's biggest game. Well, at least for now, it is one of 2021's biggest game, as Biomutant is one of the few to have an actual release date, which is May 25th, 2021. The game is now said to be of extreme importance to THQ Nordic and one of the biggest games of 2021. Right away, let's get into why you should definitely consider getting Biomutant when it releases in 2 months at the time of this video on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. First of all, its varied customization system, not only for the character itself, but for its stats and how strong and fast it is, its abilities, its weapons, its equipment, armor, and so much more. First off, when starting Biomutant, you have to choose one tribe out of 6 unique tribes in the character creation. But it is not like choosing between 6 characters, it is more like choosing between 6 DNA strands, and morphing your own character within those DNA strands. Each of these tribes has its own unique DNA, meaning different personalizations, which you'll then tweak and personalize further, before going on to even more minute details such as fur and fur patterns. The creature shown in the game trailer and gameplay is only the developer's character. It can be so much different than that, depending on what you do. The appearance will also affect stats, and you'll see this reflected while you're making your character. Although you can upgrade later in the game however you want, at the beginning the developers are putting you into this decision. Are you fast and nimble? Are you a smart mutant? Or are you a warrior? Or whatever you want to be. The choice will be 100% yours and affect everything you're doing. Players can also craft and customize both melee and projectile weapons, with melee weapons being either a slicing, crushing, or piercing type. Projectile weapons such as shotguns, revolvers, and rifles can be crafted and customized to your liking as well. The player will be given a huge level of control over crafting and customizing weapons. The creators have said it is an expensive crafting system and that you can combine the part that you scavenge for thousands of combinations. You will also be crafting gear such as clothes, helmets, shoulder pads, and so on. Players can also change their abilities and looks by mutations and biomechanical body parts, such as attaching robotic legs, wings, and claws, which can be used to get various advantages against certain enemies or at certain locations. Next up, we have the decision-making system. You might have definitely heard before in a trailer or gameplay video that there will be a tree of life in the game, and that the tree itself and the world around it is dying. This is where the decision system starts. Your character can choose to help save the world or to aid its death. Simple as that. Biomutant has branching storylines where decisions made by the player will decide how the story will continue. The world of Biomutant is struck by a natural disaster as poisonous oil comes up from beneath the surface and pollutes the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life has 5 roots, through which it gives life to the whole world. In order to save the Tree of Life, players need to go to the end of each root, where aside from the oil, a creature is destroying the root, which is a huge difficult boss. There are also 6 tribes that are split from their original enclave. 3 of them want to heal the Tree of Life, while the 3 others plan to do things on their own. Each tribe can be influenced through the karma system. The player can ally with a tribe and eliminate other tribes in order to grow the power of the allied tribe in the world, although the player can also decide on the Tree of Life's fate without having to murder any of the tribes if they want to. All of your actions and decisions will also affect the behaviors of NPCs, as well as the way the story progresses. This includes the player's relationships with the tribes, as well as potential NPC companions that they can recruit in their quest. The people will view you differently. Next up, we have the combat system and the enemies of Biomutant. This might be one of the best things from Biomutant itself. The game is absolutely filled with different enemies and bosses that all have their own abilities and environment buffs. There's enemies you will find underwater, and there's some that will be in a toxic environment, which will all need different combat skills to take on. The martial arts style combat system allows you maximum freedom of movement and agility while mixing shooting, melee, and powers from your mutations. You can learn new Wong Fu combat forms through progression and learning from masters you'll meet. It will also constantly add to your choices and make sure combat never gets old. The Tree of Life has 4 routes that spawn across the world, each leading to a World Eater boss, which are huge monster battles that demand particular tactics and equipment. Finally, we have the world itself, which can be explored by foot, on animal's back, mech, jet ski, air balloon, or area unique mounts. Explore the dying wildland, the tunnels and bunker networks of the underworld, and find your way up the mountains or out in the dark deserts. There are lots of discoveries to be made, mysteries to unravel, creatures to confront, and weird characters to meet in this vibrant and colorful world. While players are free to explore anywhere on the map after exiting that narrow tutorial corner, some zones are gated and can't be accessed until later in the story. For example, in the dead zone, you are deprived of oxygen. If you get the mech, you can go deeper into the dead zone without suffocating. That mech is provided to you by a character in the story, thus meaning the dead zone is a later game location. But curious players may find a way into the dead zone hours before the story dictates. It's open world and you can go to any of these characters in any order. Even if you have a main quest marker, you can choose to not take that and meet another character. It will all be up to you depending on the quest you're up in doing. So, as you can hear and see, Biomutant is looking to be an extremely massive project. And though there is a lot of promise from its developers, it's worth noting they've been working on it for more than 4 years now. They've had plenty of time to fully create it, without having any crunch time. Alright guys, let me know if you're excited for the game's release in May, and of course make sure you drop a like onto this video to give some support, and subscribe to stay tuned. Thanks to Richard Westfall, Bruce Wayne 236, Thunderbeard, Kianzo Fagari, Rickno23, Diamond Hunter 45, Themistocles, Space Beer Gaming, and Rash Singbati for being a master member on the channel. You can become a survivor member for as low as 99 cents only by clicking the join button below. This will support me and the channel as a whole to continue making videos on the games that truly deserve it.